It's 7 p.m. Wednesday, August 21st, here in Seoul.
Coming up on NEWSCENTER tonight. The top diplomats of South Korea and Japan sit down in Beijing for talks, but the two only reconfirm their differences over pending bilateral issues.
The government plans to invest billions of dollars into developing South Korea's innovative sectors, while more local companies are stepping up efforts to make their own parts and materials crucial for the semiconductor industry.
South Korean regulators announced tough new inspections on food from parts of Japan contaminated with radiation. The move comes amid fears that Japan will run out of storage tanks to store nuclear wastewater soon.
And Washington's point man on North Korea, Stephen Biegun, says the U.S. is ready to resume long-stalled nuclear talks with the regime. Pyongyang, however, lashes out at the U.S. for pushing ahead with a joint military drill with Seoul. NEWSCENTER begins now.
Good evening and welcome to Arirang News Center, live from Seoul. I'm Han Daeun.
And I'm Noaram. Thank you for joining us this evening. The top diplomats of South Korea and Japan met in Beijing earlier today for talks amid the ongoing trade row between the two nations.
But it appears nothing much has changed since they last met 3 weeks ago in Thailand, as the meeting ended only to reconfirm their differences. We begin with Arirang's Foreign Ministry correspondent, Lee Ji-won.
South Korea's Foreign Affairs Minister Kang Kyung-hwa and her Japanese counterpart Taro Kono met again Wednesday afternoon to discuss pending issues, but it seems like they simply reiterated their stances, neither side budging. The 35-minute meeting came on the sidelines of the 9th Seoul-Beijing-Tokyo Foreign Affairs Ministers' talks. According to an official at South Korea's Foreign Ministry, Minister Kang, as expected, expressed great regret over Japan's trade restrictions on Seoul and urged Tokyo to retract them. She also said that there need to be negotiations on the matter and asked for Japan's efforts there. But to that, Kono is said to have restated the view that the restrictions are not up for discussion because they were imposed for security reasons. The South Korean official told reporters that Kono also brought up the forced labor ruling, in which Seoul's Supreme Court ordered Japanese firms to compensate the Koreans forced to work for them during Japan's colonial rule. Kono reportedly argued that the issue was resolved in their normalization agreement in 1965, while Kang is to have said that the government respects the judicial authority of the court. As for South Korea sharing military intel with Japan, Kono reportedly asked for Seoul to make a decision on whether to continue. The deadline for either side to cancel it is this Saturday, but Kang said the matter is still under review. South Korean officials have wondered aloud why they should keep sharing military intel with Japan if, as Kono says, there are security issues between the two sides. There have been reports that a decision will be made at the weekly National Security Council meeting on Thursday. And with so much emotion on both sides, the ministers asked each other to protect the safety of their people in each other's countries as well. Meanwhile, Kang is also to have again relayed Seoul's grave concerns about Japan's treatment of radioactive water in Fukushima, while urging Japan to make a wise decision. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
South Korea is gearing up to take a leading position in the fourth industrial revolution. Today, the government has announced billions of dollars in investment to support related sectors, such as 5G, AI, and new semiconductors. It also plans to exempt research businesses from preliminary feasibility studies as part of efforts to increase Korea's self-reliance in strategic materials. Our Hong Yu has the details.
South Korea's Finance Minister Hong Nam-gi said the government will invest more than $3.8 billion next year in spreading innovation to all sectors of industry. During a meeting held at the Export-Import Bank of Korea on Wednesday morning, Hong said more than $1.4 billion will be used to develop industries related to data, 5G networks, and AI, also known as the DNA sector. and more than $2.4 billion will be used for system semiconductors, biohealth, and future cars. Laying out the steps of innovation, he said first, funds for core infrastructure needed for the DNA sector will be increased. Then the government aims to spread innovation to the development of technology for hydrogen and electric car batteries, create a testbed for system semiconductors, and make a big data platform for medical data-centered hospitals through investment in the 3 new industries. To speed up new investment into research and development, the government will exempt research businesses from preliminary feasibility studies. These exemptions will apply to research that aims to increase Korea's self-reliance in strategic materials and equipment. More than $1.5 billion will be allocated for this research. Finance Minister Hong wrapped up the meeting by saying he will speed up innovation by strengthening labor and regulations. He plans to train more than 200,000 people as AI experts and expand the proactive regulatory roadmap based on future predictions to all ministries by 2023. 홍유, Arirang News.
Long before Japan's export restrictions kicked in, Korea's small and mid-sized firms have been trying to localize and perfect their own parts and materials needed for the semiconductor industry. And those firms are now inching closer to the key to success. Our Kim Da-mi brings us part 1 of our special series of reports on Korea's countermeasures to Japan's export curbs.
These connectors are just one of 1,000 parts used to make a smartphone, but they're essential if a smartphone is to function properly. Smaller than the size of an ant, the board-to-board connectors connect electric circuits. From its raw material, hyperphosphor bronze, to the manufacturing process, the connectors are 100% made in South Korea.
New future growth is derived from persistent and continuous R&D. We have poured in over $10 million over the past 4 years, which has allowed us to export our very own products to China and even Japan.
Another local SME has mastered the production of a reclaimed wafer and is more well-known in the global semiconductor industry. Reclaimed wafers are recycled wafers. With its wafers mostly exported to the US, the firm is one of the largest reclaimed wafer suppliers in the Asia-Pacific region. Plus, its wafers are 30% cheaper than the Japanese ones. These local firms, however, struggle to shine because of large conglomerates' preference for foreign products after years of heavy reliance and easy access.
Local conglomerates have been loyal customers of Japanese parts and material firms for their advanced technologies and close geographical distance. South Korea's large and frequent orders of Japanese products over the years have pushed Japanese firms to further develop skills and technologies.
Instead, local SMEs say it's time to trust Korea's localized products. The more they're used, the more they will improve through trial and error. To do that, the Ministry of SMEs and Startups promised earlier last week to help match conglomerates with SMEs so they can build symbiotic relations with their needs and wants.
A cooperating system needs to be constructed where conglomerates request for parts and materials they need and local SMEs develop and produce them.
Insisting on adopting local products may be unrealistic in the world of global value chains. But active use of local products will help local firms survive and thrive against global competition and bring Korea one step closer to technological independence. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
South Korea's exports look likely to fall for the 9th month in a row in August. Korea Customs Service data shows that in the first 20 days of this month, exports fell 13% on year to $25 billion. Semiconductor shipments were down nearly 30%, while petroleum products dropped 20%. Exports to China fell 20%, and shipments to Japan slipped 13% amid the trade conflict between Seoul and Tokyo. In July, ICT exports fell 22%, mostly due to low growth in semiconductors, displays, and mobile phones. The government has laid out plans to strengthen inspections on food imports from Japan amid growing concerns over radioactive contamination from the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster. Our Kim Jae has the details.
The Ministry of Food and Drug Safety says starting Friday, it will double the number of inspections of food imports from Japan that have a record of being sent back due to radioactive contamination.
Due to growing consumer anxiety over radioactive contamination, the ministry will analyze inspections from the past 5 years and double the number of inspections of food items that have been sent back because of radioactive contamination during that period.
A total of 17 items will be checked, including 10 processed foods such as tea and chocolate. Also on the list are 3 agricultural products like blueberries, plus food additives and health supplements. Until now, such inspections were conducted on just a 1 kilogram sample from each product, based on its manufacturing date. But now the ministry will take 2 samples and test them both twice. South Korea has banned imports of all fishery products from 8 prefectures of Japan and 27 agricultural products from 14 prefectures that have had higher levels of radiation since the Fukushima meltdown. All other food from Japan has been subject to thorough radiation checks. When any of these items have had traces of radiation, Korea has requested additional inspection reports, but because Japan has never sent any, all such items have been sent back. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
Japan's Sankei Shimbun reports that the decision by Korean carriers, including Korean Air, to cut flights to Japan could hurt provincial tourism in Japan. The newspaper attributed the decision to suspend some routes to Japan to lower demand due to the strained relationship between Seoul and Tokyo. It said tour businesses in provincial areas would inevitably be affected by the change, as more than 60 routes to Japan from South Korea will see reductions. The Japan Tourism Agency said earlier today that about 560,000 South Koreans visited Japan in July, down 7.6% on year. U.S. Special Representative for North Korea Stephen Biegun has said the U.S. is ready to engage in talks with the North if the regime is willing. His remarks came in a meeting with his South Korean counterpart and Seoul's unification minister earlier today, where he also dismissed rumors that he will become the ambassador to Russia. Oh Jung-hee reports.
Washington is prepared to start talks as soon as the North is ready. That's according to U.S. Special Representative for North Korea Stephen Biegun, speaking to reporters Wednesday at Seoul's Foreign Ministry after meeting his South Korean counterpart Lee Do-hoon. Biegun said he was assigned by President Trump 2 months ago to resume working-level negotiations with Pyongyang after the Kim-Trump meeting at the demilitarized zone. Biegun stressed that he's fully committed to this task.
Regarding the restart of those negotiations, we are prepared to engage as soon as we hear from our counterparts in North Korea.
He then denied recent rumors that he'd be leaving his post and become U.S. ambassador to Moscow.
I want to dispel any rumors that I will be leaving this portfolio to take up an ambassadorship abroad. I will not be taking up a diplomatic posting in the Russian Federation, and I will remain focused on making progress on North Korea.
Meeting at the inter-Korean truce village of Panmunjom in late June, Kim Jong-un and President Trump had promised to resume working-level talks in 2 or 3 weeks. But the North did not respond to U.S. proposals, and so that didn't come true. Soon after, Pyongyang started condemning Seoul and Washington for holding a joint military exercise. But with the drills having ended on Tuesday, it is possible that North Korea and the U.S. could meet soon. 2 weeks ago, Kim Jong-un wrote to President Trump that he'd like to start negotiations as soon as the drills are over. Later on Wednesday, Biegun met with Seoul's unification minister Kim Yeon-chul as well. He'll wrap up his visit on Thursday after meeting with the deputy chief of South Korea's National Security Council, Kim Hyun-jong. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is calling on North Korea to come back to the table for talks on its denuclearization, saying that would be the best thing for the North Korean people. Kim Yo-sun reports.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has urged North Korea to come to the negotiating table, expressing concerns over the regime's latest missile test launches. Speaking to CBS on Tuesday, Pompeo said the two countries have not returned to the table as quickly as he would have hoped. Such remarks follow the North's launching of 2 projectiles last Friday, the latest in a series of tests of short-range missiles or other projectiles by the regime since late July, in protest against joint military drills between Seoul and Washington. The message comes as U.S. Special Representative for North Korea, Stephen Biegun, is in South Korea to discuss the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Pompeo also said he hopes to see Chairman Kim Jong-un come to the negotiating table for a better outcome, which will ultimately help the North Korean people as well as the international community. Referring to Kim's denuclearization pledge made in Singapore last year, Pompeo highlighted that President Trump is committed to keeping the American people safe by ensuring the North Korean leader delivers on his promise. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
However, North Korea has shifted the target of its condemnations from South Korea to the US, blaming Washington for making the situation on the Korean Peninsula worse by pushing ahead with a joint military drill with Seoul. The North Shimbun said today that Washington, despite its promise in Singapore to improve relations with the North, still keeps a hostile policy towards the regime. It said the US is continuing its, quote, war rehearsals and arms reinforcements, bringing in F-35A stealth fighter jets and Global Hawk surveillance drones. The paper said that it's therefore legitimate for the regime to strengthen its self-defense and deploy what it called powerful physical means. In other news, at the National Assembly today, rival lawmakers grilled Seoul's defense chief over North Korea's criticism against Seoul-Washington military drills, to which he said there was no reason to respond every time. On whether to renew or scrap a military intel sharing pact with Japan, the defense minister said all options are under review. Kim Min-ji reports.
South Korea's defense minister says that he doesn't feel the need to respond to North Korea's criticisms, saying it has nothing to do with the country's military readiness. Speaking at a parliamentary meeting on Wednesday, Minister Chung Kyung-do described Pyongyang as a fussy younger sibling. The North has stepped up its belligerent rhetoric against the recently concluded Seoul-Washington military drills and even directly criticized the defense chief, calling him a funny fellow.
I don't feel the need to respond to every time the North uses shallow and vulgar language. It doesn't weaken our military.
On the fate of a bilateral military intel sharing pact between South Korea and Japan, also known as the General Security of Military Information Agreement, the defense chief said that the government is carefully reviewing all possible options.
The government is carefully and thoroughly reviewing the options. There are times that the pact has been of help, and that's why a careful review is underway. Otherwise, we could have decided to scrap it right away.
Chung said that it's wrong to simply discuss which side the deal benefits the most, saying there have been instances when Seoul received critical information from Tokyo regarding North Korea's nuclear test. He added that it's also a matter of strategic value rather than just the utility itself. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
The International Atomic Energy Agency says North Korea continued its nuclear activities last year and has made some progress. In a report it will submit to the UN General Assembly next month, the IAEA said it found signs that the North's 5-megawatt nuclear reactor in Yongbyon was operational until mid-August last year. It was running intermittently until November and not at all in December. The agency also said the North used steam superheaters in its reprocessing plant from late April to early May, and that centrifuge enrichment facilities were powered up as well. The IAEA said those activities are a clear violation of UN Security Council resolutions and are very regrettable. After 3 years of negotiations, South Korea has signed a free trade agreement with Israel. The agreement will remove tariffs on over 97% of Korea's exports to Israel and over 99% of Israel's exports to Korea. Tariffs on some of Israel's agricultural exports, such as rice and garlic, will still face tariffs. South Korea's trade ministry said the bilateral deal will help strengthen technological exchanges, including machines and biohealth between the two countries. The deal makes Korea the first Asian country to sign a trade agreement with Israel and is expected to boost bilateral trade, which recorded $2.7 billion in 2018.
The throne hall of Seoul's main palace, which was used for the coronation of Joseon kings hundreds of years ago, has finally been opened to the public for the first time. And our Won Jung-hwan takes us there.
Every year, nearly 6 million people visit Gyeongbokgung Palace, the first and largest royal palace built during the Joseon dynasty. The palace served as the home of the king and his household, as well as the government of Joseon. But for many years, visitors have never had a chance to actually go inside the breathtaking throne hall where King ruled the country. This place was blocked off from public view for hundreds of years, but now visitors have the opportunity to step inside for the first time. For around 1 month, starting on Wednesday, as part of efforts to open up more of the palace, visitors are allowed in to savor the majestic interior of its main hall, known as Kunjeongjeon.
The inside of the Kunjeongjeon used to be kept from the public due to concerns over damage and security, but we decided to take gradual steps to open it to the public.
Kunjeongjeon, the largest wooden building in the palace, was used for the most important royal ceremonies and functions by the leaders of Joseon. Kings would have sat on the throne nearly 2 meters off the ground to receive foreign guests, watch ceremonies on the stone-paved courtyard, and host the highest-level assemblies attended by their aides. Some 75 assemblies took place every year at this place during the Joseon period. Visitors to the throne room are overwhelmed by the 16-meter-high ceiling, which is decorated by a carving of a pair of golden dragons that symbolize royal authority.
When I looked from outside, I didn't know this place would be so spacious and cool.
The floor is very impressive. I always thought it would be a wooden floor, but it is actually made of stone. Also, when I saw this building from outside, I thought it would be a 2-story structure, but it is actually one gigantic room.
During the special visiting period until September 21st, groups of 20 visitors will be allowed into the hall through 2 20-minute guided tours every day, from Wednesday to Saturday, free of charge. Reservations are only available online, and visitors must be aged 13 or older. 원정환, 아리랑 뉴스.
South Korea's entertaining media content is gaining popularity around the world, and this week, Korea is hosting its biggest broadcast contents market to introduce content to prospective buyers. Our Lee Min-sun reports.
Broadcast Worldwide, or BCWW, Korea's biggest content market for international broadcasting networks and buyers, opened in southern Seoul on Wednesday. 170 companies from 40 countries, including China, Japan, Turkey, and the US, are taking part at this year's event. It's an opportunity for content creators to get their latest work in the spotlight. While previous events mainly focused on television dramas, this year the organizers tried to expand their scope and introduce other popular programs like variety and entertainment shows to foreign broadcast companies. The organizers also hope to highlight the potential of licensing content for other formats like cartoons.
I'm doing a kind of research about K-pop, and I'm here to find some kind of contents that explain the phenomenon of K-pop, because I'd like to apply what Korean made with his music in Brazil.
Arirang TV makes a range of programs including news, documentaries, lifestyle shows and K-pop shows. Our most popular programs are K-pop programs such as Simply K-pop and After School Club. This year we are also presenting high-quality online cooking content and tour programs.
Arirang TV has also invited 16 producers from Chinese media outlets for a regular 2-week cooperative program to create content together and promote Korean programs to a broader market. The annual event also gives participants the chance to take a closer look at the future of content for broadcast and new media. Experts give presentations about the evolution of content and platforms amid changes in technology like the 5G network. This year's event is also providing more public-friendly events like fan meetings with webtoonists, documentary film screenings, and lectures by a popular digital content creator. BCWW runs till Friday at COEX in Seoul. Lee Min-sun, Arirang News.
Korea is seeing some major growth in the market for products that are vegan. For ethical and health reasons, interest is rising, and analysts say the country is looking at a market worth tens of billions of dollars in the next several years. Our Kim Hae-sung tells us more.
A growing number of Korean consumers these days look for vegan signs when shopping for cosmetics.
I look at smartphone cosmetics apps to make sure I buy products that use eco-friendly ingredients, not chemical ingredients.
From shampoos to lotions, vegan cosmetics products are stamped with a vegan certification mark, proving they do not use animal ingredients or byproducts in the manufacturing process, haven't been tested on animals, and are GMO-free. Since early this year, foreign and Korean local cosmetics brands have supplied drugstores with vegan products, and the vegan cosmetics market is expected to top $20 billion by 2025. According to the Korea Vegetarian Union, around 1.5 million Koreans are estimated to be vegans or vegetarians. That's 3% of the total population and is more than 10 times the figure back in 2008.
Millennials have a tendency to show their values and beliefs via their consumption patterns. With this change in awareness that emphasizes ethical consumption and animal protection, and social media that spreads this message via pictures and videos, more companies are coming up with vegan products, and veganism is growing rapidly.
On factors like animal welfare, health, and environmental protection, interest in veganism has increased, and the vegan food businesses, including burger restaurants and bakeries, are booming. At grocery stores, consumers can also easily find meat-free, plant-based products. Already in North America and Europe, fast food chains offer vegan burgers, vegan donuts, vegan tacos, and even vegan ice creams. And a similar phenomenon is happening in Asia, meaning more innovative vegan products are set to be released in the next couple of years. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
Sports Minister Park Yang-yu says Seoul is reviewing whether to set up an Olympic training camp in Tokyo due to concerns over radiation. He told a parliamentary committee earlier today that safety is a top priority, adding the issue will be discussed with local and international sporting bodies. His remarks came amid fears that Tokyo is planning to serve athletes food from Fukushima, the site of a nuclear disaster. Several events for next year's Summer Games are also scheduled to be held in the region. Japanese organizers have dismissed the concerns. South Korea's producer prices remained flat on month in July. The Bank of Korea says the production price index, a key barometer of future consumer inflation, stood at 103.5. Electricity and gas prices went up slightly, but industrial goods prices dropped on falling electronics goods prices. Agricultural goods prices fell on an increase in supply. On year, July's producer prices fell by 0.3%. K-pop boy band BTS have been nominated in 5 categories for this year's MTV Video Music Awards. The American TV channel raised the number of nominations from 4, explaining that BTS have also been nominated in the Best Group category. They are also competing in categories including Best K-pop and Best Choreography. The ceremony will be held next Monday in New Jersey. Autumn is likely to arrive in South Korea as soon as Friday, following a couple of days of rain. Forecasters expect the showers over the next 2 days to end the country's heat waves. Daytime highs are likely to hover around 30 degrees Celsius later in the week, and most parts of the nation will be free from tropical nights until the end of the month. That has been your 3-minute news flash. It is that time now where we take a look at some of Arirang's digital media content.
And today we have another episode of Koreator, where foreigners share their love for Korea.
Hey guys, my name is YB. I'm not very good at cooking yet. I'm trying to practice. No! So the ingredients are really simple. You can really do anything you like. You can add whatever you like, take out whatever you like. But this is probably the most basic ingredients. So first we're gonna cut the ham into pieces. So, oops, we're already messed up, but it's okay if it's not perfect. Okay, so there's the ham. So first add vegetable oil to the pan. You can put as much as you want. We're gonna add some kimchi juice on top of it. Just a little bit of sesame oil on top because I love sesame oil. This is optional. Oh, I messed up. The next one. Action! No! If you would like, add some cheese. Any kind of cheese is okay. Put this on top. I like a lot of cheese. Throw the egg right on top. That is it. Now let's bring it to the table. So we made it, and here is the first bite. Oh my god. The cheese is so good with it, and the kimchi. And the ham. The spam ham is kind of salty, so it makes the flavor. If you've never made kimchi fried rice before, go ahead and try. It's so easy as you just saw. I'm so bad at cooking and I was able to do it minus the eggs part, but you know. Mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. So thank you guys for watching, and you can apply to be the next Koreator too. So bye, see you next time. And last bite.
The rain is expected to cool us off slightly, so that's good news. But some regions are expecting a heavy downpour.
Better get your umbrellas ready. Now let's get more of the weather from our Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Michelle.
The southern provinces and Jeju have been receiving some rain already, while the capital is seeing only a light drizzle. However, into the night, the rain will become heavier across the entire country. But by tomorrow afternoon, the central region will gradually see the rain clearing off, but the rain will continue until the evening for the southern provinces. And the capital and the surrounding regions will only see up to 10 millimeters, whereas Jeju and Jeollado and parts of Gyeongsang-do provinces will receive a bucket load of rain with up to 100 millimeters or even more. So wherever you are, grab your umbrellas in the morning. Now, this morning will begin a few notches cooler tomorrow at 23 degrees Celsius, while it's looking slightly warmer for the southern regions. And the rain will keep it a bit cooler, with highs reaching up to 30 degrees in Seoul and 29 in Daegu and 28 for Busan. The weekend will be a rain-free one, with capital's daytime high staying below 30 degrees, and also the lows will plunge into the low 20s from now on. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That will wrap it up for this edition of Arirang News. Thank you, as always, for watching.
News in Depth is next.